Hello everyone, this is Erik, the Asian movie enthusiast, and this is my review of Egg, a Japanese horror comedy from 2005 that was directed by Yukihiko Tsutsumi. Now I followed this guy for a number of years, and I've also reviewed a handful of his projects on this channel, including 2LDK, Jam Films, the Hanako-san movie from 1998, Forbidden Siren, and the Trick television series. I've also reviewed this movie, Egg, in my Asian horror playlist years ago after I blind bought the DVD while on vacation. But I would like to spotlight it in a separate video now because it recently got an English-friendly Blu-ray release. Tsukiko lives a mundane existence that revolves around her office job. On her way to work one day, she closes her eyes and a mysterious giant egg appears in what would otherwise be the darkness of her eyelids. Okay? Soon, the egg hatches, unleashing with it real-world effects that grow more horrifying every time she closes her eyes. A surreal slice of horror, this blends elements of psychological thrillers and creature features. Okay. Now, Tsutsumi actually wrote the screenplay for Egg, which he does not do that often. He's only done this a handful of times throughout his career. Now, this allowed him to retain even more creative control than if he were just the director. And he definitely got creative with this one. The premise is pretty wild. And as you might expect, lots of weird stuff happens. And these incidents mostly straddle the line between being spooky and humorous. And there are a number of giggle-worthy sequences and even a few laugh-out-loud moments in this. Now, the confrontations between the woman and this inner demon, I guess you could call it, are pretty entertaining as well. This apparition, which hatches from the egg, is pretty cheesy looking, and it's also kind of horrific looking at the same time. But it works, because this is a horror comedy movie, so, that monster design does make sense. And it will be appreciated by monster movie fans who enjoy seeing actors in rubber suits, and you know who you are. In fact, the design of this monster could have been used as a kaiju in a Godzilla or a Gamera movie. And that's not just a coincidence, because Tsutsumi always wanted to make a kaiju film. But he had one in development at one point, and that was canceled. And his creative team had a few months of free time before their next project. And he used that inspiration to create the monster in Egg. Now, I don't want you to get confused because I'm making kaiju references here, but this movie does not have like city destruction scenes or anything like that. This is a very low budget and personal movie. This monster torments our protagonist from within her own mind and body. But you can still see the kaiju influence within the monster design. Now, the storytelling is actually pretty interesting in this, rather unique. When the details are revealed, there's an international flavor to this as well. The lead actress is actually Korean in heritage, and her name is Jo Hee-young. And her character's Korean ancestry does play a part in the backstory of the film. There's also an older Caucasian lady who is a supporting actress and has a very significant role. Most of the side characters are Japanese, of course, though. Now, Jo Hee-young is forced to carry the show in this. Like, she is on the forefront of this movie. She's in most of the frames of the film, or at least most of the scenes. And I think she does a good job. This is not an actress I'm familiar with, and she has a very small filmography. But she does have some nice screen presence, and her comedic timing is effective. I like her mannerisms and kind of facial expressions in this. Now, most surprisingly, the visuals are actually pretty good. And there's some interesting camera work, lighting, and set designs to please the eye. And I say it's surprising because this is a very low-budget film. But Tsutsumi is a talented enough director. He was able to get some visual style out of this. There's one scene at the very beginning that has like a futuristic feel to it, for lack of a better term. The protagonist, she's working on a computer. She goes to work. And her work job consists of her sitting at a desk and clicking her mouse on code. It almost looks like a matrix code of zeros and ones that are like flying down the screen. And she's got to click on the code errors within the code to correct them manually using her mouse, which requires her to have like lightning speed hand-eye coordination. I just found that scene to be very interesting, almost kind of side bell and whistle, I guess I would call it. Something a little additional in terms of the, a world building. And it's pretty interesting. There's a lot of little bells and whistles like that in this film. And there's a scene where the monster hatches, and it's a pretty cool environment, and it almost has a fantasy feel to it. Now, one negative of this film is that the visions that she has in her mind are a little bit repetitive when she sees this monster, and this monster really basically exists in that one setting. It's a beautiful setting, like a fantasy type setting, and it's moody, but it is restricted to that setting for much of the film. So you need to remember that this is essentially a B movie, and it has certain limitations like that. But overall, Egg has a certain X factor that makes it fun to watch. Maybe I would call it heart, and it does have a creativity and a uniqueness to it that I think definitely benefits. So if you're looking for like a charmingly obscure oddity, this is a good one to check out. It recently got a Blu-ray release from Error 4444, which I think might still be in stock. And it's also available on YouTube with English subtitles. So let me know if what you think of this one if you eventually watch it. Like, I think I mentioned in one of my pickups videos that this was like one of the more entertaining blind buys I ever bought while I was on vacation in Japan. So let me know what you think of this. And as always, folks, I'll see you next time.